Once, in a land of great peril, there lived a cat named Scoober. Scoober was a tabby cat, but most of the time you could hardly tell. This cat was no ordinary. Scoober had a very special skill that few cats could boast of. Scoober was a diver, trained by the U.S. Gravy. At least I think it was the gravy, maybe I'm just hungry. One day, Scoober decided that he would use his mastery to help the locals of his hometown. A dog named Dover was the first to accept Scoober's offer for help with finding anything lost in the town's reservoir. Dover walked up to the front door of Scoober's house and recited the following ritualistic poem with an unholy rhythm. He who treads among the fish, help me please carry out my wish. My bone is lost below the wave, I will miss it so right to the grave. Scoober, no doubt, heard all of this from his living room couch. The aquatic feline made no mistake in assuming that the frightening melody passed through the lips of the dog, Dover. Opening his front door, Scoober opened his mouth to speak to the waiting dog. Dover, get a job. This is serious business I'm trying to conduct, you dumb dog. Dover was appalled. I am appalled. He recoiled on his four legs, his eyes wide. That's great, Dover. Now please, get off of my property or I'll call the police. Scoober was trying to be polite, but Dover was not going to leave without a fight. I'm not leaving without a fight. One could sense Dover's soul was fading away. My soul is fading away, Scoober. Please, I need my bone. Scoober raised his cat eyebrows and said, Okay, Dover, even if I go fetch your bone. The word made Dover's mind spasm. You would fetch my bone? Bone? Fetch bone? Bone, fetch bone? Rolling his eyes, Scoober said, No, Dover, I'm not going to fetch your bone. You can't even pay me. Nonsense, Dover yelled, though he knew he could never pay the cat. He was desperate. I'll double what you would normally ask. Believe me, Scoober, that bone is all I have. With disregard for Dover's feelings, and with a desire to return to his couch, Scoober leaned toward Dover and whispered loudly, But you don't really have it, do you? Leave, Dover. Your bone is probably in a dump somewhere. He then turned around and walked back inside, leaving a speechless Dover drooling on his doorstep. Dover sat whimpering and crying on that very doorstep, shifting between a sitting and lying position every so often for several hours. Scoober did not care for Dover's bone or his apparent need for it. When the sun began to set, Dover stood. He walked several miles to his box near the town gas station. Dover was right. He had nothing left. Nothing but an empty, stepped-on cardboard box. Within view of the gas station, Dover's box was a vantage point he was now using to scope out an unsuspecting customer. Any customer with an open truck bed containing a can of gasoline would do. Dover seldom thought of stealing, but the feeling of it gave him an adrenaline boost like no other. His need for his bone, coupled with the temptation of stealing, was a dangerous mix for a dog with nothing to lose. Finally, after an hour or so, a pickup truck with 2 dirty gas cans drove up to a gas pump. The pumps were all lit for nighttime gasoline purchases. This was both good and bad news for Dover. Scoober could weave through crowds of people unnoticed, but Dover was a clumsy golden retriever who had no idea how to make himself invisible. Dover walked in the dark, to a spot several yards from the gas pump where the truck was stopped. Dover could prepare himself while the owner of the truck, a countryman wearing a baseball cap, got out and began walking towards the door of the gas station building. When Dover was safe to travel unnoticed, he quickly ran to the tailgate of the pickup. He jumped up and grabbed a red gas can from the bed of the truck with his jaws and quickly retreated back to the darkness, with his red container in tow. He made a hasty getaway back to his box. Whether the man would notice a missing gas can or not, Dover had the most important ingredient to his master plan. Scoober was going to pay, Dover thought, clenching the can with his teeth. Dover made his way across the now dormant town to Scoober's residence. Dover set the gas can about a foot from the cat's home. The can smelled of something, but Dover did not know what due to his inexperience with anything other than trash and filth. He assumed it was the profound smell of gasoline, and removed the cap from the dirt-speckled gas can. It was too dark to tell if there was actually any gas inside of the can, and Dover could not tell from its weight. Almost everything to him was heavy. Dover's heart began to race, and he began to mutter terrible things under his breath. Dang cat. Gonna die, cat. Dover lifted his paw, pressed it to the gas can, and tipped it over. He immediately ran to the other side of the street, opposite Scoober's house. To Dover's disbelief, nothing happened. Cursing now, Dover slowly crept toward the house. He walked over to the gas can and noticed, all too late, that the gas can was empty the whole time. He hadn't taken into thought that people go to the gas station to fill up empty gas cans. Therefore, the gas cans they bring are usually empty until refilled.